Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guest with your host, Christina Nitchman.
Join our mailing list today by texting Savvy Radio to find out about upcoming guests and events and receive a free gift, how podcasting can help increase sales and influence in your business. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. This is your host, Christina Nitchman. Each week, Savvy runs weekly broadcasts providing entrepreneurs and successful individuals a platform to express their dreams, hopes, lessons learned, expertise, and wisdom with the world. Our guest today is Michele Scism. Michele is a leading authority on business growth and online marketing and the founder of both decisiveminds.com and the Global Social Media Managers Association. Her clients call her the Results Lady because as a business strategist, she uses her signature Take Action, Get Profit system to help entrepreneurs turn their passion into expert status and then profits. Michele's knowledge in the area of online marketing and social media marketing have been recognized during recent interviews on several web TV shows, including being interviewed by Christine Frank of Donald Trump's The Apprentice. Find out more about Michele at decisiveminds.com. Hi, Michele. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm really, really happy to have you out here, girl. You have a big event coming that I want you to share with our audience when we get close to the end.
Sure.
But before that, I want you to share about how you came to creating your business, Decisive Minds, and becoming a business growth expert. How did that all work out for you?
Oh, my goodness. It starts at birth. You'd think I'm kidding. I'm really not. I am a third-generation entrepreneur. So I was born into a family that had children to guarantee they had employees. So working in the grocery store by the age of 5 and just never stopped. It was a life of entrepreneurship. We owned, as throughout my young adult life, we owned a grocery store, a mobile home park, an RV park, a wrecker service, and a trucking company. And I eventually moved into focusing exclusively on the trucking company. I went to school and got a degree as an accountant, and I took over the trucking company and built it to a place where we actually got it to a point where we sold it, and my entire family retired. And I was in my early 40s at that point. I had done lots of other things along the way. I was a Mary Kay sales director for 5 years. I owned a company that flipped houses. That was a lot of fun. Wow. So just that serial entrepreneurism, that's the way I was raised. And so once I sold the trucking company, and then we actually sold the grocery store not long after that, I thought that I was just going to live the life of Riley. I had my bills were paid. I was going to travel and do all those things. Well, I forgot that my 2 children were still in high school. And that my husband still owned his own business. And what happened was I actually found myself pretty much on the couch every day and lost my identity. I lost that entrepreneurial identity, which is that's how I have lived my entire life. And in 2009, I thought, this is crazy town. I know an awful lot about building businesses. I should figure out how to build a business doing that. And I went out to an event actually in California and watched someone do an event where they were training entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. And I thought, I can do this. And so I asked him, I said, listen, if I hire you, will you just teach me to do what you do? I just need to know how to make money with my knowledge. No problem, he said. So I hired the man and took off running in January of 2010. So yeah, lots of fun.
Yeah, I love that story. You have a slightly different story than a lot of folks that came on our show where they actually had no experience with an entrepreneur background. They kind of were in the corporate world or the working for someone else. So this is a different perspective. But what I found interesting is that when we first spoke, you said it wasn't easy sailing. You think it would be because you'd been in businesses, you'd run businesses, but it took time to build your now entrepreneur business and build it to a place where it was successful. And often I think we don't realize that, hey, it takes a bit of work till you get something successful. Why do you think it's often not immediate, even when you have the expertise and the knowledge behind you?
Yeah. It was a real awakening for me, and I learned some big things, So I really thought, well, I just sold that company $9 million. I signed that contract. I know how to build businesses, and so I thought I would just like become this business consultant, and people would just hand me money and I'd help them build their businesses. What I didn't realize, and that first year, 2010, at the end of the year, I went back and went, holy moly, I only made $12,000 in the whole year. I mean, it was awful, awful, awful. And then I thought, you know what? So yeah, I've built a lot of businesses, but I always had a sales team. I always had a marketing team. I had the people that drove the clients to me. Mm-hmm. I closed the deal. I made sure that they were happy and they stayed with us for a very long time, but I didn't have to go out and find them. And that was my big awakening. I realized after that first year, okay, I can't do it like this. I have to put strategies in place to go out, be seen, build my visibility, have people, have conversations with people that lead to a sale. And that was very different from what I had done previously. And I think that that's actually what affects most entrepreneurs. And a lot of times when I speak to them, I one of the first questions I ask is, in your previous job, did you have to go find the client, or were you handed the client to then do, so that you could play in your brilliance? And usually it is, they weren't part of the sales process. They were part of the delivery team and really good at what they were delivering. And so they come into entrepreneurship and find out that they don't know how to make money. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to find the client, right? Or hold the sales conversation. So that was the big shift for me. And it took me, so the second year I did six figures. It took me 4 years to get to the $500,000 mark, and we'll hit $1 million this year. So, once I figured it out, we were back off of the running. But yeah, that first year was tough. Oh my goodness. It was tough.
Yeah, and that's interesting you mentioned that, because I think from a lot of people I've talked to, one of the hardest part for them is not talking to people. They tell me, I talked to hundreds of people, but closing it is often a big thing for people, is actually, and what do you think it is for women? For me, I'm witnessing for myself in the past, it's been that we're having these easy breezy, girlfriend chit chats on the phone, but it's not really a focused sales conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times it is, asking for the money isn't always an easy situation for anyone. But I think as women, we have a tendency to buy into their stories. And so, I teach a part of my course is on the difference between sympathy and empathy. And so when we have sympathy for someone and you offer them your services, or you talk to them about what it is that you do, and they say, oh, that's great, but you know what? My son's getting ready to start college, so I have to pay for tuition, and my daughter needs braces, so I'm getting ready to do that. And they give you all those reasons why they can't work with you right now. Mm-hmm. And if you have sympathy, then what you hear is, oh man, I just put my son through college, so I completely get that. You really don't have any money. Or wow, I just put braces on my kids too, right? We have sympathy in that we feel that, yes, you're right. You don't have the money because you got to go do that. That's extremely important. When we have empathy instead of sympathy, empathy would be, you know what? That's awesome. And you do need to do that. And I'm so excited your son's going to college. But listen, if we work together, this would be the shift that you would see. And what would that change for your son to go to college? Maybe it would give you more time in the day so you could go off and go see him at college. Maybe it would give you more money so that he can, live an easier life, or it's not going to be so hard for you to pay for his food bill next year, right? There's a difference between sympathy and empathy. And I think that as women, we're naturally sympathetic. So we have to fight that.
So really, in essence, it's clarifying, saying, I get where you're coming from, but you came to me for a certain reason because I have something of value that can better your life. And wouldn't that make it so that these things you need in your life will be easier for you to accomplish and get if you were to...
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
I totally get the difference. Absolutely. So I know you also talked that your business is different than other coaching businesses because you're about building a legacy, not just making a living or staying afloat and keep your business running. What exactly is the difference?
Yeah, the difference is just that. So a lot of people are just trying to figure out, how they're going to pay their utilities next month, right? They're trying to figure out how they're going to stay afloat in business. And I look at businesses differently. I'm looking at a business from the standpoint of what do I have to do right now? What systems do I have to put in place? What structures do I need to create so that I take it to the point where it is sustainable, scalable, maybe even sellable if I choose to make that choice, right? Something that will operate on its own without me if I make that choice, and just the ability to have the choices. And so, normally we don't start off immediately with a legacy business. Most entrepreneurs don't come into the entrepreneurial world with the amounts of cash that it would take to start with a legacy business. There are things we have to put in place to create that. And it normally takes anywhere from 5 to 7 years to create a true business that can run on its own if you want it to, or it's in a systemized fashion so that you can do what you need to do and just be checking in on the business. So yeah, it's what I see is I see people out there making decisions based on the dollar that they're going to get tomorrow instead of the vision of creating the business in a way that that would make it sustainable for the future. My father passed away last summer, and when he did, and we had been in business my entire life, and we still have family businesses together at this point. We've started some more, but when my father passed away unexpectedly, our businesses continue to run. Our employees got paid. We took a month off and just spent time together as a family, and our clients got taken care of, and our business, everything was fine because we create our businesses in a way that makes them able to run without us. And so, yeah, it was a real eye-opener for me in this industry in particular, coming in and working with entrepreneurs in service-based industries, that they're not building like that. And they've truly created a job. And so when they do take time off to, maybe take a little downtime or just to go to an event or something, some sort of training or course, their business is shut down. And so we got to fix that.
Yeah, and I think it's really, from what I'm gathering from what you're saying, it's really a shift in your mindset.
Absolutely.
From thinking about just covering the bill this month to, no, let's think about this for the lifetime of not only your lifetime, but generations going forward.
Correct. That's absolutely right.
And what I also like that I got there, Michele, is that it didn't take overnight. And I think that's a myth in our society, and I've covered that with other guests, is that we have in our society that, oh, look at Amazon, look at Google. They're fabulously, amazingly successful, but they forget, hey, how many years did it take before you see the end result?
That's it.
Yeah. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. What are you willing to do and what are you willing to commit to, right? So you have to be real careful as entrepreneurs. We have that whole shiny object syndrome thing going on. So we have a tendency to bounce back and forth. So we really have to have that plan in place, or we'll bounce from idea to idea, from marketing strategy to marketing strategy. Before we know it, we're thinking we're working with some different audience. There's some real commitment that we need to make to build these businesses. So.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned the shiny object syndrome that, some businesses have. And I know you worked with a lot of business owners. What are those some of the mistakes, or have you seen others that you see majorly made by a good group of business owners?
Yeah, so that's one of the major ones, is the whole shiny object syndrome. When I'm working with my clients, I make them get to a point where they commit to something for a minimum of 12 months. So it's like, we're going to put a marketing strategy in place. You're not going to change, drastically. The road may curve a little, but we're not going to go off and go into some way out quadrant and do something really different, because what I know to be true, and I watched it in my own business, I've now watched it in hundreds of my clients' businesses, we get started, it doesn't feel like anything's working, but if we just continue to plug along, people start to pay attention. And then so when I looked back at my business, that first year, I didn't make any money, but I built an audience. I ended that year, I think I probably had, $3,000 or $4,000 on my people on my fan page. I had probably 5,000 people on my list. I had really done well in building the audience. I wasn't converting them, but what I noticed was the second year, those people started to buy. And so when I looked back at it, hindsight's 2020. When I look back at it, I realized that it was the commitment I made to stay the path when it didn't feel like it was working that actually made it work in the long run, because it gave those people enough time. And after certain amounts of time went by, they trusted me at that point, and they were more willing to buy.
Wow.
Right. And so I see it. I see it in marketing plans. I see it in product development. People just, it's too easy. There are so many things that are thrown at us. I remember those days back when I used to listen to teleseminars and webinars constantly, and I was listening to lots of different people, and they were giving me lots of different ideas. And then I realized one day, wow, I was messing myself up by looking at all the opportunity, because there are probably 1,002 ways we can market our business, right? Yeah. And when we focus on a few of them and do those few of them very well, then we see success. So I think that's huge. I think, we started this conversation with the fact that people are having a hard time making the sale. I am an extreme introvert and very shy. And so I have put systems in place so that those things work. And I don't have to go out and necessarily cold call on anyone. I have never made a cold call in the last 5 years, because I just know me. I can't and I won't. And so there are systems that can be put in place for everything. So if you're seeing that you're not selling enough, for example, there are some strategies that you can put in place that drive the right people in, get them in the right mood, and get them to the right point where you have that conversation. And so I would just encourage people to look at those places. Where is it in your business that it's not working? So really awesome points there, Michele. And I'm liking the time factor to stick with it for a certain amount of time, because when I got started, I think it was 3 years ago, I did my first live event, and it was a workshop where I brought out some past guests to talk on, I think, marketing. And I think we got 2 or 3 people in the room or something. It was horrible with all the work I put in and whatever. And my friends and people around me were like, okay, it obviously doesn't work. You should totally drop it. Yeah. And now, beginning of this year, when I was praying deeply and saying, God, what's next for Savvy? And I got that we should do live in front of a live audience. I was like, oh, really? That didn't work 3 years ago. I don't know if I want to go back there. But we've been getting such an amazing response to it. And we're really starting to fill the spaces more and easily. And here's the thing you mentioned about sales. When I first started the show, I think within 6 months, we have 40,000 listeners. Then after a year, it had built to 50 to 60,000 listeners. After a year into year 2, a lot of those people started referring people or becoming clients and asking, how do we do advertising on your show? Yeah. And so the thing I realized, like you were mentioning, is that it's not overnight thing. I mean, even if they get to know you, even if you cold called and you were an awesome cold caller and they loved you, most likely they're not going to put money down until you build that like, know, and trust factor with them, and that takes time. Yep, that's exactly right. And I will tell you that I love that whole idea, that whole process. I mean, I've been in business my whole life, and I've watched the old way of doing it, the show up and beg for the opportunity to, even talk to them, and they don't have a clue who you are. And we right now, this whole way of doing business, everything's shifted, and we can blame all of that on Facebook. It's a good thing. It's a good thing in that people have the ability. I liken it to the Golden Girls. I tell people this all the time. So I love the Golden Girls, and I have watched that show every day for probably 30 years at this point. And those 4 women are like my grandmothers.
Aw.
I built that level of relationship watching them on TV. As they started to pass away, oh my goodness, it was very difficult. If something happens to Betty White, I will be in my bed, right? I mean, that's the level of relationship I have built with those people. And we're sitting in a period of time where people are out there doing the same thing with us. They're listening to our radio shows. They're hearing us speak. They're seeing us on stages. They're watching us on social media. They're building that level of relationship. They're on our list. And then all of a sudden, everything clicks over and they completely trust us. And I would buy anything Betty White sold, right?
Aww.
I mean, right?
I love her.
Yeah. So people are doing that with you. We have that. It's an amazing time to be an entrepreneur, because when people get to that level, then the conversation about money isn't as sticky. It isn't as awful, right?
Exactly.
Because they come ready to work. They're coming to have the conversation with you.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I like that you mentioned, is that by building the real relationships with people over time, there are people I've talked to 3 years ago who called me first to say, what's it like to come on your show or to do some advertising? And we had that conversation 3 years ago. They referred someone to me like a year later. And then 2 years later from that point, they called me up this year and said, hey, let's get on your show and do some advertising.
Exactly. And so imagine if you had only put 1 year into the show and then thought, wow, this isn't working. And then you went off and you started designing websites, and then that didn't work after a year. So then you went off and you were right. And so now these people would be ready to work with you, and you'd be 3 businesses down the road.
Exactly.
So.
And what's interesting is people have come to me even like last year and said, hey, how do I monetize this podcast? I want to make money with this puppy. And I tell them what work went into it, because for every broadcast, there's a lot of background work for each guest and profiling who's good for the audience and who's good for my guest.
Exactly.
And then, coming up with the questions, doing the interviews, editing the interviews. Are you willing to do that on a consistent basis 1 to 2 times a week, or maybe every other week? A long period of time. And then they're like, well, heck no, I want to make money like next month. I'm like, well, you're not gonna.
Go sell your blood, right? I mean, it's not a business. It's not a business. So
what have you seen as some of the biggest aspects when it comes to sales? Because we talked about sales early on that stops business owners from really growing. What are the top 3 sales tips you would give business owners out there?
Cool. So I love talking about sales, so we can definitely do that. The first thing I'd say the biggest mistake that most people are making is that they're selling the, they're not selling the benefits, right? They have to sell the benefits, not the features. And so we see that's actually a huge problem. And I think it is because we fall so in love with our own stuff that we can't wait to tell them that I've got this amazing program that's going to help you, and it's 4 modules, and you're going to love it because they're video, and we go into the features when all they want to know is that
how is it going to help me?
When they finish, their husband's going to be smarter, or their kids are going to like them, or they're going to lose 100 pounds. That's what they want to hear, and so they could care less how they're going to get it. What they want, they want to know that they're going to get what they want. And so the first problem really is that whole conversation of features versus benefits, and that is a learned process. Thank goodness, if you can learn it, you can do it. And it took me a while, guys, to be real honest. It took me a while to really figure that out and learn how to do that and stay focused there instead of going into the details of how exactly I wanted to work with them. The second piece around that is you got to really get clear on what it is that they do need, right? And, why do they want to make more money? Because making more money may not be, they're not completely money driven, and there are people out there that are, but they might want to be making more money because they want to send their kids to college, or they want their husband to retire, or they want their wife to retire, or whatever that looks like. And, when you know that, that's the conversation you can keep bringing them back to.
So meaning getting clear on what their why is.
Absolutely. Getting very clear on their why. If you ever want to watch something that some people that are really good at that, you ever watch Barter Kings on A&E? This is a great show where these guys, all they do is barter, right? So they will have a computer and they'll barter it for watches, and then they'll take those watches and barter it for a copy machine, and they'll take that copy machine and barter it for a boat. But they are brilliant at the why because they exchange no money. Okay. So they're constantly in the conversation of getting something for greater value than what they've got in their hands. And they will go to that person and they always go to the why. I love to watch that show because it is this stuff in action. And, they had one where the guy wanted these 2 watches. They had 2 watches from the 1990s and the guy wanted them, and he had a set of these antique books or something. And they wanted to trade. There were about $1,000 difference in money. So there was no equality in the money. And he was hem-hawing around, and they said, so tell us, why do you even want these watches? And he said, well, that's when I married my wife, and I want to give her one and my mother-in-law one for our anniversary, right? So they get to his why. So when he's hem-hawing, when he's not sure if he's going to do the deal, they're like, so listen, can your wife wear those books? Don't you want her to have this watch? Right? I mean, they got him right where they needed him. And he's like, you're so right, I'll take it.
Wow. So now I'm really curious about this because some people feel icky about sales because they're like, isn't that kind of manipulative because he used his emotions against him?
I'm so glad you said that because it's not manipulative when you, so couple of things here. Number one, and I could lay odds on this, that your audience is not manipulative by nature. Okay, if they were, they wouldn't last in your audience, right? And it's the same thing for my audience. So number one, you're not manipulative by nature. But I will tell you, I tell all of my clients, and pretty much all of my clients are service-based, right? And so what I know is that I cannot help you unless I can get you to hire me. So can I help you? Can I change your life through your business? I absolutely can. I am sure of myself. I do it all the time. But I cannot help you if I can't motivate you to hire me. So if I have to use your why to motivate you to hire me, I'm going to do it. Because I know when you work with me, you're going to be better off. And so it's not manipulative whenever, when you're, I'm not trying to take anybody's money. If I were just attempting to take their money and not, if I wasn't going to change their life or their business, I would be manipulating them.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great distinction. I wanted you to make that because I've heard that argument so many times. And, it feels so icky to use their why or I've heard it said, like my old mentor said, find out their struggle and then use that. And of course, I first said, well, that sounds all not nice.
Right.
Yeah. So we've got that.
Yeah, my whole thing is when you know that what you do works and that it's going to change their life, change their business, change their family, change their community, whatever that is, then do what you got to do to get them to hire you.
Yeah. Because the bottom line is you're not just taking money, you're providing a valued service or information or product. That's the whole reason. That's what sales is. You have something of value and you're getting value for it. Period.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So there was a third one?
Oh, sure. I could probably do 20 of these.
Okay.
I would say that the third biggest mistake in your sales is your lack of follow-up. And
oh my God, girl, we need to do a whole show on that one.
Yeah, we could do a whole show on that one. That is the truth. I will tell you, I'm not the queen of follow-up by any means, but I am the queen of systems. And so I have a follow-up system. Right? And I know that I have things that are put in place to get you to come to me. And so follow-up doesn't mean I have to pick up the phone. Yes, it does mean I have to pick up the phone, but it doesn't always mean that. It means I connect with you through social media. It means I make offers to have you see me on stage somewhere, to have you join my live stream, to get you on my list in some form or fashion, to offer you strategy sessions so you schedule with me. Right? So there's follow-up in many forms, but the majority of you are doing nothing. for the follow-up.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned this, Michelle, because there's so many times that people will call me up even to say, hey, I would like to be a guest and just to share my wisdom. And we have this great conversation, 15-minute conversation. We decide what we're going to talk about. I send them my calendar and nothing.
Yeah.
And I follow back up with them and nothing. And I'm like, what's up with that?
Yes, that's exactly right. So, it is a huge problem. It's an epidemic. I'm going to say it's an epidemic.
They need to call you for some help today.
That's right. Exactly right. So those are the moments you need to be working with a business coach.
That's right. Well, you have an exciting event coming up. I want you to share with the audience a little bit about that and then let them know how they can get in contact with you, sign up for your awesome upcoming event, and if they want to work with you if they can't come to your event.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. This is the 5th year of our event, and we've had a little shift. In the past, it was called Take Action, Get Profits, and this year I changed the name of it to Legacy Live. And it's always been about building business and marketing, but this year it is that next level. It is about building businesses that make a difference, creating a business that is designed to be scalable, to be sustainable, scalable, and sellable. And so, I'm really excited about it. I told you earlier about my father passing away. And so I've spent this last year really looking at, I guess I took for granted that everyone knew how to build businesses the way I know how to build them. Right. And so when he passed away and I went through that it was like, oh my goodness, now I could see that there are so many entrepreneurs that are just trying to make it through this year, this day, whatever, instead of looking at what's it going to look like 5 years down the road? What's it going to look like 10 years down the road? So I'm really excited. I changed up all of the content for this event. It is building a business, but it's about building a business that, number one, makes the difference in the world that you want to make. And number two is designed in a way that you can have a choice. So you can sell it, you can keep it and run it yourself, you can bring someone else in and you go play in Costa Rica, whatever you want to do.
I love it.
So you can find out more about that at legacyliveevent.com. That's legacyliveevent.com. It's September 10th through 12th in Houston, Texas. Yes, it's hot, but I promise you the air conditioner works. So I won't make you go outside for anything. But it is a lot of fun, and I just love working with entrepreneurs. And so, my events may be a little different than a lot of events you go to. It's not a lot of rah-rah. It is working, and it's me on stage probably 75% of the time teaching. So it's great. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I would love for you guys to come and find out more about that at legacyliveevent.com. And if you would like to just reach out to me, you can find me anywhere on social media, but I'm going to give you my email address. You can email me at Michele with one L, so Michele at decisiveminds, minds.com. And I would love to chat. So,
fabulous. Yeah, and they can find out just to go to your website and check out more about you and your everything at decisiveminds.com.
That's right.
Yay. Well, Michelle, I want to thank you again for sharing your wisdom on sales and business growth. Thank you so much for coming to Savvy Central Radio today.
Oh, this has been so much fun. I love doing interviews. Oh,
and I love interviewing you, girl. It's a lot of fun.
You were great.
Join our mailing list today by texting Savvy Radio to find out about upcoming guests and events and receive a free gift, how podcasting can help increase sales and influence in your business.
Savvy Central Radio is home to over 100,000 listeners per month globally and runs in syndication on 8 AM and FM platforms, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out more about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out to the world, call 718 area code 713-2289 or email at savvycentralradio@gmail.com.